Hi, so today I'd like to talk a little bit about this right to repair bill that I talked about in a previous video. So the whole idea here, to keep a long story short, is that if you work in this business, you know that it is damn near impossible to get the parts to repair the products that we service, how impossible it is to get the diagrams and the schematics to service the products that we work on. And it's just kind of tiring to go onto these FTP servers that are illegitimate to try to find this stuff. It's tiring to have to deal with all these dumpster divers that you never really know. Are they selling you something good or are they selling you something trash? Because you're just not allowed to buy from the manufacturer. Again, if you're involved in businesses like camera installation, if you're involved in networking, if you want a Cisco switch, you just go to a Cisco authorized reseller. You buy it, and you know you're getting a Cisco switch. You know that it's going to work the way it's supposed to, and you don't have to deal with wiring money away to these shady Hong Kong and Korea vendors for parts, and where again you may be getting stuff original from the manufacturer grade, and you may be getting a complete pile of shit. And it's so tiring. So there are people out there who actually drafted a bill to try to stop this nonsense so that the manufacturers would be forced and compelled to make parts available to third-party repair shops, and also required to make the schematics, manuals, diagrams. Again, not the whole intellectual property of here's how you make a MacBook, but rather, like the charging circuitry has this attached to this so that I can figure it out in a reasonable time frame available. And this is pretty cool, and some of these people actually invited me to go up to Albany this Tuesday, which I was very, very excited to do, to talk about it to some senators, assemblymen, assemblywomen, and the staffs. And this was really, really cool. I honestly went into this very, very cynical. I went into this, with the standard idea, with the standard cynicism that you might expect me to have, thinking, oh, it's the government, they're not going to listen, they have more important things to worry about, Apple's probably paying them off, blah, blah, blah. I went into it with that kind of cynicism, and let me say, it was completely unfounded. These people listened to everything that I had to say. A lot of them actually agreed with me. They asked for information. They listened to me as if I was a legitimate source of information, not just a 26-year-old not wearing a tie. And it was pretty cool. I actually got a lot of people to co-sponsor this bill. And not just me. I was working alongside of some other people who were very, very good at what they did. It was, an attorney, some other business people, and a lobbyist. And I got to make my presentation, and my presentation was pretty good. I showed them a motherboard that needed one wire to repair it that would have been worthless without it, that was worth about $700. And I said, this is worth $700 when it works, but if I take this wire away, it's worth maybe $20 on eBay. And where to put this wire is something that I had to figure out using a schematic. Without that schematic, this is worthless. Apple wants $750 to fix this. Consumers should have a choice. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I charge 17 cents to put that 17-cent wire there. You know what I charge to put that 17-cent wire there. And I don't feel bad about it because I run a business in the most expensive part of the United States. But the point is that consumers should have a choice. Again, somewhere between $7.50 and 17 cents, there are many, many options that can be made available, but we need the manuals to do that. And there are some points that I made while speaking with these state legislatures. The first is that you can give a repair shop a million years and billions of dollars. You give them that schematic. Like me and Steve and I, we're not going to be creating manufacturing MacBooks here. That's not our business. That is not what we're interested in, nor is it something we are at all capable of. It will never, ever happen. Again, the average small repair shop, most of these small repair shops, again, we're not here to manufacture laptops. We're not here to manufacture iPhones. We're here to fix them. That's it. I want to know where the backlight fuse is without having to send PayPal monies away to random Swedish, Russian, Romanian people that I don't know and pray that they send me a schematic instead of just take my money. That's what this is really about. And they understood that. The second point that I made is how spiteful a lot of this process actually is. Again, the whole idea that with an iPhone 6, if you replace the home button and you go to update it later, that the phone will brick itself. It will actually die. There is no reason for that. It's a home button. It really doesn't serve any function other than Touch ID and a home button. Some of the other points I made, like the SMC chip, if I actually try to read the firmware off of it, it will erase itself. So I have to take SMCs off of dead boards, and I took dead boards with me with holes through them that were all burned, and said, I had to take this off. Then since I'm taking this chip off, instead of buying it new, I have to attach all these tiny 0.3 millimeter balls to it manually, and then put it on, and then pray that it worked because it came off of a board that looks like shit. And this is something that's really frustrating and really annoying. And I am tired of dealing with it, and it really is just out of spite. Again, this chip pretty much says here, charge battery, here, stop charging battery. Here, we're running too hot, stop, make the CPU fan run higher, or stop processing, or, oh, we're running cool, you can keep going. This is not trade secrets. This is not the secret sauce to how Apple makes billions of dollars. It's just a little chip that says charge the battery. Why should that thing erase itself just because I want to transfer it to another chip so that I can fix a board for less than the $750 that you're asking for, when the product itself is $1,000 and the product itself is a $15 problem? I came up with a very short and concise way to present this. We got about 5 or 6 people out of the 5 or 6 people that I saw to co-sponsor the bill, which I think is pretty damn good for a couple of hours in an afternoon. And here's what really got me. It's like, Apple, your lobbyists, some of the shit that you guys are saying it really is some bullshit. Like, I heard so much fucking misinformation while I was here. One person said, well, that's done to prevent theft. What the fuck are you talking about? You mean tying the home button to the motherboard, that's done to prevent... Are you kidding me? Again, if the phone gets stolen, you have an iCloud lock, it doesn't matter if it's a 5, a 5S, a 6, it's equally useless. The same as if it didn't, again, if it doesn't have the home button tied to the motherboard, it makes no difference. This has nothing to do with preventing theft and everything to do with hurting the repair market. Again, if I steal your phone and you don't have any sort of iCloud lock on it, and you don't have a way of tracking it down, and you don't know the ESN or the IMEI, it doesn't matter whether it's a 6 where the home button is tied to the motherboard or a 5 where the home button is not tied to the motherboard. I have a phone that I can now use even though I stole it from you. It's not about the home button. The home button has nothing to do with it. See, the whole reason to make it so that the home button is tied to the motherboard is so that independent repair shops cannot fix it if they break it, and if that phone is water damaged and that home button is damaged in any way, that they have to go to Apple. This is about spite, and this is a point that I kept driving into the legislators' heads. This is really just like a spiteful ex-boyfriend who just decides to get back at you because they're pissed off that you're dating other people. It really has nothing to do with protection or safety. And, a couple of the other things that I heard that were just, oh my God, ridiculous. They said that, well, actually, when you fix a motherboard, you're changing its intellectual property, and then you're putting it out into the world again. So I'm going to fix a MacBook. And the whole thing, the way that the legislator got it across to me, they said, you're going to fix a MacBook, but you're going to modify it in order to make it work. You're going to modify it so now it's no longer a MacBook. But when you give it back to the customer, you're representing it as a MacBook, which makes you a liar. And again, this is the stuff that the Apple lobbyists are saying. So what I did is I took out my computer, and I took out one of these documents that I'm probably not supposed to have, and I'll show you pretty much what I showed them. I said, okay, so let's say here, let me just shrink myself so that you can see everything. I know. I need to get the scene set up. It's one of those things I just can never get the time to do. I said, so see over here how this is, here's what I did. I print screen this, right? And I opened Paint. So I opened Paint, I pasted it in there, and this is a part of my presentation. So I said, okay, so let's say you get water on it, right? And now this over here is erased, right? So this is gone. This over here is done for, so that line is not there. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take a different type of wire. Again, I'm not going to be running the same type of trace that's inside the PC board because I'm not a manufacturer. But let's say instead of having a black wire, I take my little red wire over here, and I put this and I attach it over here. And by doing that, the motherboard works again. Now, I haven't changed the layout of this. All I did is I took a line that had been erased by the water, and I redrew that line to the exact same place. This is still a MacBook. This is still the exact same computer that the customer had before. I haven't changed the computer in any way. All I did is restore it to the way it was before they spilled something on it. So I'm not misrepresenting anything to my customer. I'm not telling them that I replaced the board when I repaired it, nor am I changing the functionality of the computer at all. There is nothing about that computer circuitry, nothing about the charging circuitry, nothing about the CPU circuitry or graphics or anything that's actually changed as a result of my repair. I am not modifying it. What I'm doing is I'm simply restoring it to the way that it was before. So that was another just big piece of bullshit that had been perpetrating itself there. And here's the thing, and here's how I'm starting to figure out a little how this works, because people are, again, they're very, very cynical about it. It's not that Apple just it's not that all these big corporations, they just give all these politicians a bunch of money to ignore the truth. That's not how it is. Politicians are very, very busy people. They have busy lives. They have a lot that they have on their plate at any given time, and no person is going to be an expert in every subject. Nobody really knows everything. So what they do is they go in and they speak to the politician. The politician or the politician staff will have some, rudimentary assumptions or questions to get just so that they can have a basic understanding of what's going on. And because the politician doesn't know everything, because I can't expect the politician to understand how me running a wire to fix the one-wire circuit is not modifying the machine versus repairing it, they make an assumption. And they'll say that assumption out loud. And sometimes that assumption will be a little bit wrong. Now, the lobbyist is not going to go out of his way to lie. They'll just nod at the bullshit assumption and then continue drawing lines to the wrong to their ideas based on that one person's wrong assumption. And since nobody like us goes there to correct them, since nobody actually takes the time, in reality, we're here to make money. I'm sitting here to make money, soldering and fixing things. I don't actually feel like taking a 2.5-hour Amtrak ride, staying in a hotel, and then waking up, putting a tie on for the opportunity to speak with these people. They never get to hear the other side of the story. So since they don't hear the other side of the story, they just listen to the first side, and they just go off of the incorrect assumptions that they have as to why things are the way they are. And that's kind of how things get as fucked up as they are. It's not this evil big conspiracy. It really is just lack of understanding, and also, admittedly, none of us actually taking the time to go up there. We may complain about it on forums, we may complain about it to our friends, our family, our staff, but in reality, nobody's complaining to the right people. And you'd be surprised. Again, I went up there pretty much the same guy that I am when I'm talking on this YouTube channel here. Not a lot has changed, except, I had a button-down shirt, slacks, dress shoes, no tie, no jacket. I'm not wearing a tie or a jacket for anybody. But I just walked in and I spoke to these people that have law degrees, political experience. They're all about the traditional definition of professional. They're all kind of the people that you wouldn't think my approach would work on. And I spoke to each one of them, and again, every single person I spoke to, they were more than happy to co-sponsor the bill. And there was one person that had a couple of questions. They wanted to, they couldn't do it right then and there. But for the most part, it went really, really well. But again, what really kills me here is just the sheer level of ignorance and misinformation that you Apple lobbyists are just so happy to have in that area, so that you can get your bullshit across. Again. And this is seriously a problem, and it's not just a problem with our industry. There are people here who are, again, they're servicing servers that run Oracle databases and whatnot, and a power supply and the server will die, and the client will be told by the third-party service center, well, you're out of warranty, but here's what we can do. We can just replace that power supply with this power supply here, and you won't have to buy a new server. And then Oracle or somebody or IBM or whatever will call that company that's using that server and say, hey, if you use those guys, we're going to sue the shit out of you. And that's... Again, that's a problem. That's something that should not be happening. You should not have to buy new licenses for software and buy all new hardware because your server power supply dies. It's just ridiculous. Nor should the manufacturer have this ridiculous stronghold and monopoly. Again, be happy with the $50 or $100 or $150 billion you have in the bank, and let people simply repair the products they have instead of pay you 90% the cost of a new one to have it working again 1 or 2 years after they buy it. And again, I'm modifying the intellectual property and misrepresenting what I work on? Seriously, get the fuck out of here with that. Where do you come up with this shit? But honestly, I had a lot of fun going up there. It was really fun going to Albany. It was great to pretend to be a lobbyist for one day. It was even better to have all these negative connotations that I had associated with how politics work get flicked away. Again, even if this doesn't wind up getting passed, even if a lot of things don't go the way they were, it was really cool to realize that you can actually go to these places and you can, again, somebody who has no lobbying experience, somebody with no political experience, somebody who's never been to Albany before, can simply walk into all these rooms and clarify all of this misinformation for all these people. And oh, by the way, one of the things that made it a lot easier for me, I got to say, it wasn't all me. One of the things that made it a lot easier for me is that about, I would say 3 or 4 of the people that I talked to, they went to the Genius Bar. This one woman, she was told $750 because she had a fucking fan that was broken and that it was a tier 4 repair and all she needed was a fan. Somebody else that had an iPad that was broken that was told like 300 or 350 bucks when it was nothing but a screen, and that they would lose all their data. Like, again, one of the biggest pieces of help that I got is that when you go to the Genius Bar, you just get treated like shit. And it really is. It's your policies that are actually turning these people against you, to the point where it doesn't take any salesmanship on my part. Again, I went there with my best sales game. I went there with all the salesmanship game that I talk about in this channel, on not being needy, on not trying to insert ideas into people's heads. But most of it didn't take a lot of salesmanship on any of our parts. Again, it was a lot of the consumers. Admittedly, when the other guys started talking, they were talking about the same thing I was talking about, but they were talking about it with Oracle and IBM and mainframes and things that the average person doesn't have experience with. But iPhone, iPad, your MacBook with water on it, you drop it and you crack the screen, you drop it and a little wire or via disconnects and it stops charging. These politicians, I saw that MacBook Air on her desk, and I know that they had experience with this. When I see the guy with the iPad, I know that he's had experience with this, and I could really relate to him on that level. And you could even see when I started using words like Tier 4 and 750, I didn't have to explain what that was. They already knew what that was. They already knew that bullshit that you get sold at the Genius Bar when something doesn't work. And it took no fucking effort to get these people to see what's going on and to realize that what's going on is a complete disaster and nightmare, and to get them to co-sponsor this bill because they had experienced it. So all I got to say to you, Apple, is thank you very much for the policies that you got going at the Genius Bar, because the policies that you have going at the Genius Bar, again, it's not just about affecting the people that come to the store as my customers. You actually have state legislatures that are pissed off at you, that don't require much salesmanship from me because of how you treat them. And that was pretty cool. I'm going to have a little link in the description. You can actually see a picture of me pretending to be a lobbyist in Albany. I would be more than happy to go back as many times as necessary to get legislation like this passed, because, again, I am sick and tired of being a dumpster diver to repair Apple products. I'm sick and tired of feeling like I'm doing something wrong when I tell people, here, you can pay less than half of what the Apple Store is asking. Everything will work. It'll be done within a day, and you'll have your data. What is wrong with that? Somebody tell me what is wrong with that. Why should the law be such that when I would like to repair these products, that I'm not allowed access to any of the information for it? Even if I'm Apple authorized, even if I am an Apple authorized repair center, even if I decide, you know what, I'm just going to destroy my current business model and decide to become an Apple authorized center where I do this warranty work for no money, where I'm selling $100,000 a month gross sales of your laptops, I still can't get access to the basic schematics that I need, so that it doesn't take me 3 or 4 or 6 or 7 years to figure out that this wire goes from here to here to repair the one-wire circuit, that this wire goes from here to here to go from the PP3V4 to power supplies ton pin to the resistor on the other side of the board. Like, it's just ridiculous. And I am honored and happy that everybody involved with the Right to Repair bill and the Right to Repair Coalition decided to have me there for a day so that I could try to explain this in terms that they could understand. And, everybody who went there did a kick-ass job at selling. Everybody who there did a kick-ass job at telling their story, at explaining why this is important, at getting politicians on board with it. And I was happy and honored and humbled to have been a part of it. Thank you very much. You made my Tuesday without a tie.